Imagine leaving behind everything you've ever known. Your home, your family, your language, everything familiar. Now imagine boarding a crowded ship and sailing across an ocean for weeks, not knowing what awaits you on the other side. You carry only a few belongings, a handful of savings, and a dream of freedom, a dream of opportunity, a dream called America. But before that dream can become reality, there is one final obstacle. A small island in New York Harbor, a place where a single decision could change your life forever. This is the story of Ellis Island, the gateway to America for millions of immigrants, and the place where countless hopes were tested, leaving everything behind. During the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Europe was a continent in turmoil. Poverty was widespread, jobs were scarce, political unrest shook entire nations. Religious persecution forced many families to live in fear. For millions of people, staying meant suffering. Leaving meant taking a chance. Families sold their homes, their farms, and often everything they owned to buy a ticket to America. For many, it was a one-way journey. There would be no turning back. The voyage across the Atlantic Ocean was brutal. Most immigrants traveled in steerage, the cheapest section of the ship. The spaces were cramped and overcrowded. Fresh air was limited. Food was basic. Disease spread easily. For weeks, passengers endured rough seas, sickness, exhaustion, and uncertainty. Yet despite the hardships, hope remained alive. Every day brought them closer to a land they believed would offer a better future. A place where hard work could create opportunities that seemed impossible back home. And then, after weeks at sea, the moment finally arrived. The coast of America appeared on the horizon. Soon after, they would see the symbol that had filled their dreams for so long. The Statue of Liberty, the first glimpse of America. As ships entered New York Harbor, thousands of passengers rushed to the deck. Many had never seen such a sight before. Standing tall above the water was to the immigrants, she represented far more than a monument. She represented hope, freedom, a second chance. Many cried as they saw her. Others stood silently, overwhelmed by emotion. For a brief moment, it seemed as if the difficult journey was finally over. But it wasn't. The real test was just beginning. Before entering the United States, immigrants had to pass through. Opened in 1892, Ellis Island quickly became America's busiest immigration station. Located near New York City, it processed millions of newcomers arriving from around the world. For immigrants, Ellis Island was both a doorway and a checkpoint. Behind its walls, government officials would decide who could enter America and who would be sent back home. The inspection. Every immigrant had to undergo a series of inspections. The first was medical. Doctors watched passengers carefully as they climbed the stairs into the main building. They looked for signs of illness, a limp, a cough, difficulty breathing. Even the smallest symptom could attract attention. If a doctor suspected a health problem, a chalk mark was placed on the immigrant's clothing. That simple mark could mean further examination, and possibly rejection. Fear spread quickly among the waiting crowds. Families whispered prayers. Parents held their children close. Nobody knew what would happen next. After the medical inspection came the legal interview. Officials asked a long list of questions. What is your name? Where are you from? Do you have work waiting for you? How much money do you have? Do you have relatives in America? The questions seemed simple, but every answer mattered. One mistake, one misunderstanding, one suspicious response, and the dream could end immediately. When dreams were put on hold, for most immigrants, the process lasted only a few hours. They passed the inspections and were allowed to enter the United States. But not everyone was so fortunate. Some were detained for days, others for weeks. A small percentage were denied entry altogether. For those individuals, the experience was heartbreaking. After crossing an entire ocean and sacrificing everything they owned, they were forced to return home. Families were sometimes separated. Husbands entered while wives were detained. Children waited anxiously for their parents. The uncertainty was unbearable. The walls of Ellis Island witnessed countless tears. but they also witnessed incredible courage. Many immigrants refused to give up. They endured delays, examinations, and interrogations because they believed that a better life was worth fighting for. And for millions, that determination paid off. Building America, the immigrants who passed through Ellis Island helped shape modern America. They became factory workers, miners, builders, teachers, merchants, and entrepreneurs. They built roads. They built businesses. They built neighborhoods. They built communities. And in many ways, they helped build the nation itself. Between 1892 and 1954, more than 12 million immigrants passed through Ellis Island. They came from Italy, Ireland, Poland, Russia, Greece, Germany, and countless other countries. Each arrived with a unique story, different languages, different traditions, different dreams, yet they shared one common goal: to create a better future for themselves and their families. Today, tens of millions of Americans can trace their ancestry to someone who once stood inside the halls of Ellis Island. The legacy of Ellis Island. Today, the crowds are gone. The inspection lines have disappeared. The anxious voices have faded into history. Yet Ellis Island remains one of the most powerful symbols of immigration in the world. Walking through its halls today, emotions that once filled every room. The fear, the uncertainty, the excitement, the hope. Every wall seems to tell a story of sacrifice, a story of courage, a story of resilience. For some, Ellis Island marked the end of a difficult journey. For others, it marked the beginning of a completely new life. But for all who passed through its doors, it was a moment that would define their future forever. Because Ellis Island was never just a building. It was a crossroads between the past and the future. A place where millions arrived with nothing but hope, and where countless dreams stepped onto American soil for the very first time. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more fascinating historical documentaries. And tell us in the comments, would you have had the courage to leave everything behind for a chance at a better life?